Today, we're diving deep into one of the most brutal and absolutely pivotal moments in the rise of Nazi Germany, the Night of the Long Knives. It's a story all about ambition, betrayal, and the ruthless grab for power. And if you're studying IGCSE history, well, you really need to get your head around this one. So, let's start with a question. What happens when the very people who helped you get to the top suddenly become your biggest rivals? That's the exact problem Adolf Hitler was facing back in 1934. And his answer? Well, it was written in blood, and it changed everything. So here's our game plan. First, we're going to look at the threat Hitler saw bubbling up from inside his own party. Then, we'll get into the details of the bloody purge itself. After that, we'll unpack the immediate fallout, see exactly how it made him the absolute dictator, the Führer. And finally, we'll wrap it all up with why this is so crucial for your exams. Okay, so our story really kicks off with a massive problem for Hitler. The SA, his brown shirts, the very thugs who had helped him rise to power, had become, well, they'd become a huge internal threat. And just look at this. It really puts the scale of the problem into perspective. The SA wasn't just some small group. It had a staggering 3 million members. Now compare that to the official German army, which the Treaty of Versailles had slashed down to just 100,000. The imbalance is just wild. This was Hitler's private army, and it was 30 times bigger than the national one. And the man leading this enormous force? Ernst Röhm, one of Hitler's oldest and closest allies. But Röhm had his own ideas. He wanted his SA to actually replace the German army. He was also pushing for a second revolution, with more socialist policies, stuff that absolutely terrified the big industry leaders and conservative elites Hitler was trying to win over. So you can see the dilemma, right? Hitler was at a crossroads. The president, Hindenburg, was old and dying. To grab total power, Hitler knew he needed the support of the professional German army, not Röhm's unpredictable and radical SA. He had to make a choice. And boy, did he choose. Hitler decided to solve his problem not with politics, but with shocking, brutal force. This is where the purge begins. First, let's just be super clear on what we mean by a purge. This isn't just shuffling people around in government. It's a mass killing. It's the systematic, physical elimination of your rivals. And that's exactly what was about to be unleashed. So on June 30th, 1934, the operation kicked off. Hitler used his loyal SS and the Gestapo secret police to round up Röhm and other SA leaders. Over the next 2 days, a wave of executions swept across Germany. They even gave Röhm a pistol to commit suicide, and when he refused, saying, "If I'm to be killed, let Adolf do it himself," he was shot dead in his cell. But here's the thing. This wasn't just about taking down the SA. Not by a long shot. Hitler saw a golden opportunity to clean house. I mean, look at this. The kill list went way beyond the brown shirts. We're talking rivals inside the Nazi Party itself, like Gregor Strasser. Conservative critics, like the former Chancellor Kurt von Schleicher, were on there. Pretty much anyone who had ever gotten in Hitler's way was a target. It was a wholesale settling of old scores. Officially, the Nazi regime said about 85 people were killed. But, most historians think the real number was way higher, maybe even up to 400. They were murdering their own citizens and then lying about it. So what happened right after the dust settled? Well, the purge instantly and dramatically changed the entire balance of power in Germany. The effect was just night and day. On one side, the SA's power was completely broken, almost overnight. But as the SA fell, another group skyrocketed to take its place, the fanatically loyal SS, led by Heinrich Himmler. The rowdy brown shirts were out, and the disciplined, black-uniformed SS became the new face of Nazi terror. And Hitler got everything he wanted. The German army leaders were thrilled that their rivals, the SA, were gone. They fully approved. And in return, the entire army swore a new oath, not to Germany, but to Adolf Hitler personally. Then came the scariest part. The regime passed a law making the murders legal after the fact, declaring that Hitler was the supreme judge of the German people, above any law. So, with all his enemies dead or terrified, and with the army now loyal to him and him alone, the last pieces of the puzzle just fell right into place. Let's just walk through these final steps. 1. The SA threat is gone. 2. The army is personally loyal to him. Then, just 2 months later, President Hindenburg dies. With no one left to stop him, Hitler just merges the jobs of president and chancellor and declares himself Führer. The path to total dictatorship was now complete. Okay, let's switch gears and really focus on why this matters for you. How do you take all this stuff and turn it into a fantastic exam answer? So, if you get a question like, how significant was the Night of the Long Knives? Here's how you build a top tier argument. You have to show both sides. On one hand, yes, it was massively significant. It destroyed the essay, it won him the army's loyalty, and it paved the road for him to become Führer. But for that top grade, you have to add the however. You'd point out that Hitler already had huge power from the Enabling Act of 1933. The machinery of terror was already running. So your final judgment needs that nuance. The Night of the Long Knives wasn't the start of the dictatorship, but it was absolutely the decisive turning point. It locked down his personal control over the one group that could have physically stopped him, the army. After this event, he was, for all intents and purposes, untouchable. And that leaves us with one final, pretty chilling question to think about. By so brutally getting rid of his rivals inside Germany, did Hitler basically remove the last brake on his power, clearing the way for the unimaginable horror his regime was about to unleash on the entire world?